Hi everyone, my name is Lydia and my book is being published. I cannot tell you how absolutely exhilarating it is to be able to share this news. It's been kind of a crazy journey to get to this point. So I am publishing a short story collection. It is coming out in the fall of 2026, but just to take it back to how I got here. So in 2016, I was in undergrad at this all-women's college, and I took a creative writing class, an intro to creative writing class, and I wrote a couple stories. And then I wrote a couple more over my time in undergrad, and then I went to grad school for creative writing, and I wrote a few more stories. And by my last year, I had amassed all of these stories, and I decided that that was going to be my thesis. I was going to pull together a short story collection, and that was going to be my first book. So I worked really hard in my last semester. Honestly, I was kind of like just floating around those first 3 semesters. But that last semester, I really locked in. I think I wrote about 20,000 words worth of short stories in that last semester. And then I finished my thesis. And when I was working on my thesis, I was working on it with the mindset, I want to get as much done so when I finish my degree, I can work to getting this book published. And so when I graduated, all I was thinking about was like, I'm going to publish this book. But obviously, in the publishing world, it's not that easy. So in my last semester of grad school, our college brings agents to campus, and you get the chance to pitch to a couple agents. And so I pitched to a few, and nothing came of that. And then at the end of 2023, I pitched to a couple more agents, but I wasn't really going in. But when the beginning of 2024 came, I locked in. I was like, okay, you know what? It's time. I'm going to query hard. I'm going to query for real. And I'm going to get this book published. I'm going to get an agent and try to get this book published, because at that point, at the beginning of 2024, I was like, I can't work on these stories anymore. Like, I have taken them as far as I can take them at this point. As the person I was at that time, I was like, I can't take it any further. This is what it is. And so I queried really hard at the beginning of 2024, and obviously there were a lot of rejections, and that was really hard. I was dealing with a lot of self-doubt. One of the things that you might not know about publishing is that publishing a short story collection is hard, especially if it is your first book. Because if you really just think about it, how many people do you hear often talk about a short story collection, or you see reading a short story collection? I think the most mainstream story collection that really reached like the populace was Carmen Maria Machado's Of Her Body and Other Parties. So you can imagine that it can be hard to sell a short story collection. And as a new writer, you don't already have a built-in audience. And so it just makes it harder for a publisher to want to buy your book. And so what you'll often hear is professors, people will tell you that in order to sell a short story collection, you have to also have a novel. And you'll probably have to sell the novel first, or sell the novel with the short story collection in like a 2-book deal. And so that was the kind of feedback I was getting in these rejections. And so I was getting some full requests, and I was getting really positive rejections. And a lot of the time what they were saying was, we love the stories, we love the collection, but it's just really hard to sell. And if you write a novel, resubmit to me. And it was a lot, and it was kind of painful, because I was like, is there nothing, like, nobody will take a chance on me? I'm like, take a chance on me, believe in me. That was how I was generally feeling. And so one day I had got this rejection, and it was really lovely. It was along those same lines. It was honestly a really great rejection. I think that agent who rejected me all the time, because I posted that rejection on Twitter, and it didn't blow up by any means, but it did gain some traction, and people were seeing that tweet. Agents were seeing that tweet, and people in publishing were seeing that tweet. And actually, my professor at NYU, Brendan Taylor, who wrote The Late Americans and Filthy Animals and Real Life, he saw the tweet and he retweeted, and he was like, someone should sign Lydia. She's so talented. I should know. It's her teacher. And obviously that meant the world to me. I was just like, Thank you, Brandon. And this lovely woman named Megan Pillow saw Brandon's retweet and his note. She messaged me on Instagram and she offered to put me into contact with Roxane Gay. And of course I was like, yes, please. Yes, please. And so I would end up sending my short story collection to Roxane Gay. Publishing takes time. So while that was sitting with Roxane, I was still, you know, getting rejections, really worried. And I was trying to write a novel because everybody was telling me I need a novel. I had this novel idea that I kind of started during grad school, but I only wrote like 10 pages. And so I took that idea and I was really writing very hard to finish that novel because I was like, this is the only way I'm going to get my short story collection published. So in the meantime, my manuscript is with Roxane Gay and I'm writing this novel and I'm getting rejections. And then one day, an agent offers the call. And if you don't know, the call is basically the thing that leads to an offer of representation. So I got an agent offer, and then I got one more agent offer, and I ended up going with the second agent, who is my current agent, Mariah Stovall. About a week or two after that, Roxane got back to me and she offered to publish my book. So yeah, and so this happened. I think I signed with Mariah around April, and then I signed my contract with Roxane in May, and Roxane offered to publish the book in 2026. And since 2026 was so far away and we wanted to wait until the book was actually like closer to when it would be released, and so last week finally we put the announcement up on Publishers Marketplace and it's official. My book, Desperate Bodies, is coming out in fall 2026. It is a short story collection about the strength and fragility and unruliness of women's bodies and the humor and power in being true to their most compelling desires. I cannot tell you how excited I am for this short story collection to be out in the world. I have worked so hard on it. I wrote the first story in 2016 and the book will be coming out in 2026. So that is 10 years of my life with these stories, and I'm so happy that they're finally going to be out of my hands and into yours. So I hope you keep a lookout for my book, and I will post again when the pre-order links are available. But if you're interested in the stories and you want to get sort of a sneak peek into them, some of the stories were published in literary magazines. It won't be their final form. I've obviously had to edit the stories before they get published, but you'll get a true sense of what the collection will be like. I'll have some of my stories linked in the description. So yeah, I'm really excited, and thank you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!